Welcome everybody to Bike Talk with Dave. I'm your host, Dave Mable. I'm your co-host today, Dave Mable, and I'll get into that in a second. And today is our Mother's Day Spectacular. We've got 3 awesome guests that I will introduce you to here in a minute, but I'm going to try and do the intro without going home and recording it separately. So welcome to Bike Talk with Dave. And if you guys want to go to Gravel Worlds, we got a coupon for you, 10% off your registration fee. Just when you go to gravel-worlds.com, put in your code Bike Talk with Dave. No spaces, and it can be caps or not caps, whatever. And they are just about to announce, maybe they will have announced by the time this drops, a new start-finish area this year. So Gravel World should be something kind of new and exciting this year. Okay, with that huge introduction done, it's Mother's Day. This is Mother's Day week. This is our Mother's Day Spectacular. And I thought it'd be awesome to get the perspective of a bunch of moms who are awesome on bikes. And so we've got with us here today, and I'm going to go in order from my right to my left, Marisa Boaz. Marisa Boaz is an awesome gravel cyclist and a mom of 4 and a wife with Austin, who is he's a member of the My Wife is Faster Than Me club now. I don't know if Austin's president or I'm president, but anyway, Austin's awesome to ride with as well. If you listen to this podcast a lot, you've heard me talk about Austin. But you've also heard Marisa. Marissa's, we've talked after Serum, you've won Serum, and you've had your own podcast. So I'm sure our listeners are familiar with Marisa. Marisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
I'm stoked to have you. Another mom and grandma even, which is super cool. Deanne, Herr. Deanne has not been on the pod yet, but dang, you do some awesome stuff on your bike, long gravel stuff on the bike, and you just came off podium at the Hogback, 2nd or 3rd place to Marisa Boaz. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So the 2 of you stood on the podium just this last weekend together. So Deanne, welcome to Bike Talk with Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Stoked
to have you. And somebody else who you guys will recognize, fan favorite, Dee Mable. Dee has been on the podcast several times, has helped me host and co-host. Dee is known best for her epic interviews with our son at Rattlesnake Gravel Grind. That is a classic Bike Talk with Dave moment. And that was a Bike Talk with Dee. Dee, welcome back to the podcast.
It's because I caught you off guard, Dave.
You didn't catch me off guard. Ryan would not answer a single question you asked.
Anyone that knows Ryan, that was a proper interview.
It was absolutely proper. It was awesome. So anyway, welcome back. And then Carp, Lisa Carpinelli. You've been on the pod a handful of times. Once we're in the Velo Rosa World Headquarters here. Thank you for hosting us.
Surrounded by kits, yes we are.
We are surrounded by gorgeous kits designed by you and Kim Hopkins. You've both been on the pod before. You've also been on the pod from our time at Gravel Worlds last year.
That's right.
You and your husband race tandem. So
yes, we
and win.
And win. And catch us with 11 miles to go. Doggone it.
That was one heck of a day, for sure.
It was a great finish. Like, I love that last 11 miles.
Oh.
Maybe the last 10.
It was, yeah.
There's that one hill.
I thought it was 8, but I don't know. You got us.
It was long and it was brutal. And on a tandem, as you well know, there's a lot of communication that has to go on in that last to finish that thing. So we survived and we're grateful.
Yep, no doubt. Okay, so today's podcast, we want to talk about being a mom and being a cyclist and what it means and all that stuff. And I'm a guy and I'm a dad. I'm not a mom. And Lisa Carpinelli is a professional journalist. She is an anchor on our local NBC affiliate. And it's WHO 13.
Correct. Yep. That's right.
Got to give you a plug there. And a professor of journalism at Simpson College. So I couldn't think of anyone better to lead this discussion than our good friend Carp, as she's a mom and an awesome cyclist. So Lisa, I'm excited to have you here as host, co-host.
Yes. Yes. And I'm delighted to be here. This is a wonderful opportunity. I'm so excited. I don't think I've ever been surrounded by so much speed and endurance in my entire life when I get to speak to these three women. So this is truly an honor for me. So thank you for being willing to do this. And I think I'm just going to launch if you're
rock
if
on,
you're cool.
girl.
So one of the questions that Dave and I wanted to pose to get this started was, what makes your cycling journey, adventure, more challenging because you're a mom? Dee, I'm going to hit you first.
Yeah, sure. I would say in the beginning, it's a balancing act for sure. I mean, when I met Dave was a bike racer, and like, I was just like, why you gotta spend so much time on the bike? What about me? Then I learned to ride my bike mostly tandem with him. And then I think it was, what year, Dave? Team and training, Hy-Vee triathlon first year, and I was doing the triathlon and then hired a coach to learn how to swim, and he says, oh, you guys, there's a handful of us, you guys are good cyclists, so we formed our group.
What was that group called?
That was all 9 yards cycling, and morphed into Velarosa because we wanted pink kits, not the green.
Right.
So there you go. So
And all
what
of
made
that
it
morphed into
challenging?
this-
Time, right? Time is what made it challenging. We have 3 kids, and they were young then. I mean, now we're empty nesters. But that's when I learned how to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get your workouts in. Of course, when you were doing triathlon, you got to get a couple of the things in. So for balancing act for sure. I mean, when you have kids, like mom, that's a great responsibility. Like, who doesn't want to spend time with their kids, right? But you can also be a better parent doing the things that you love to do, which I just chose to wake up at the crack of dawn. I mean, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning to get the run in before I made it to the pool at 4, which is just crazy, but I don't know. It works, right? Like, I love mornings, and it just worked. So,
Well, and that's what I'd say. Like, Deanne, what similar idea, similar concept?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I didn't really get into cycling as young as you guys did. I'm a little late bloomer to the sport, but I was always active. And so when my kids were young and growing up, same, early in the morning, try and get some sort of a workout in before your day starts while they're still sleeping. Yeah. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're a grandma.
I am. So I became a grandma before I became a cyclist. Well, I rode my bike, but sure. I didn't actually jump into the deep end until, I guess, about 5 years ago. And so at that time, I was actually helping with, I was around 2. I was daycare for a while with the grandkids. So same, you just have to work around the schedules and getting them used to the idea that, oh, I'm going to be gone all day on my bike some days. And that was a bit of an adjustment. And we've kind of grown together in that with the whole family. It becomes kind of a family event.
And that's what I'm curious about. And then Marisa, I'd like to ask you, I'm assuming now that your kids, now a lot of them are grown, mm-hmm. but even your grandkids, they all expect that mom's got to get her training in. This is mm-hmm. part of what we do. So it just works into the daily expectation for the kids. Am I right, Marisa?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I would just say the same with Deanne and what Dee have said, that in the beginning when they were young, it was like morning time. And my husband also rides, so it was like trainer or outside. We'd just kind of take turns. Now, this is the first year that they're all in like full-time school. So it's been different, and I can train during the day, which has been very nice. Yeah, I mean, it's always a balancing act with like recovery and travel. And, in 2022, I did some road racing, stage racing, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed it, but being gone for like a week at a time or more was pretty hard. And so that's when I really leaned into gravel more. And we live in such a great area here in Iowa. A lot of the top races are driving distance. And so they're weekends, so I don't have to be gone as much. So yeah, that's one thing that I've considered, because I also want to be the best mom I can be when I'm with my kids. And so I want to have the energy for them, to play with them and read them a story and have homework. I don't want to be just lounging around and be like, oh, I'm so tired from my ride. Well, I mean, it's a balance. It's for sure a balance, but they know that right now mom is working, cycling is her job right now. So yeah, it's a fun thing, but they definitely see it firsthand, and it is a balancing act all the time.
So Dave, I'm going to jump in again because I'm super curious. I want to hit this idea right out of the gate. Do you wrestle with guilt? Because I think a lot of moms, whether they're new moms or established moms or whatever it is, that when you're trying to carve out that time, as you said, for you it's your job, but as you're trying to find this time to do the sport that you love, do you ever feel any guilt that you're taking that time, and how do you wrestle with that, or do you just say, nope, this is part of who I am and what I need to do to be the best that I can at what I do? I'm going to hit Deanne first.
Because I'm nodding over here saying yes. I don't like to miss anything that's going on with my family. If the kids are in something, if the grandkids are in something, I want to be there. And when you start talking about multiple people getting into multiple activities, you can't always be there. And so I struggled a lot with missing out on things, and did a lot of shifting my schedule around to try and be able to do everything. And as we know, that doesn't always work out so well. You can't always do everything. So I became very selective about the events I got involved in. But then I also, my family got used to the idea after a couple years that, you're going to be out training more, and you're going to be gone some weekends, and you're going to be doing some things. And I think they were excited to see me doing it. They were getting a kick out of it as well. And so I think a lot of that guilt was I put on myself. It wasn't really that they were upset with me or that they, were mad that I was gone all the time or anything like that. It was more, I just was worried I was missing out, and I was, not living up to whatever my expectation was of myself at that time as a mom or as a grandma. But that has shifted significantly in the last couple of years, and I feel a lot of more support from them, and almost at times they're like, aren't you going to go ride your bike? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be going to do something?
You need to get out of the
Please.
Resonate, Dee?
Yeah, big time. We're empty nesters now, so we have time on our hands. But I'm thinking back to our Leadville days, and we would have somebody from our church come for the, we would go out a couple days early. It was a big race, and I think total we did it 4 times, and we would have somebody from our church come and stay with the kids. And the kids would be like, you're doing Leadville this year, right? Because they wanted Miss Katie to come and say, well, okay, then might actually be, they want us to go. Yep. But again, it was early mornings, right? You got to get it done when you got to get in 100-mile days, and, it's hot, and so many times we'd start in the dark to get done by noon, then still take them to the pool or do whatever it is that, you had to do. But I think guilt's a natural thing for a mom to feel, whether it's work, stay at home, it's so hard. You always want to be there for everything and the best at everything, that guilt sometimes comes naturally. And again, I think when your family embraces it, for us, they know we like to do stuff like RAGBRAI. We raised our kids on RAGBRAI, just, taking them from, in the carriage and in the Burley, and they've been on RAGBRAI the years old that they are, and so I feel somewhat they don't do that competitively, but they still do RAGBRAI and embrace it, and I do think it becomes a lifestyle of your family, and it's fun.
Yeah, Marisa, how about you?
Yes, I would say for sure. I actually just recently had this experience happen to me during one of my races that I've done this spring, and anyway, I got dropped on this hill. And all of a sudden I had all these negative thoughts come to me, what are you doing? You spend all this time and you can't even get a top result. So it's it's that guilt that can set in. And then I just had to wrestle with that and sit with that. And I had to think, well, if I stop cycling, I would still want a job. I'm still going to do another job. I need to do something for myself, because this truly, I can't just sit at home and do laundry all day long and clean the house all day long. You know, it's like you have to think to almost like talk to yourself more rationally and be like, I do need to do something for myself. I'm a human too, and I deserve to exercise and move my body because it truly does make me a better person. And I think it's just finding my purpose and knowing that it's okay if I'm not perfect. And I think it's good for my kids to see that. I'm not going to always have a great result, but I'm still going to get out there and train my butt off and work hard every day. And it's okay if I, am weak sometimes and I fall and, you get back up and you try again. And so I think though, the guilt part is very real. And I think you just have to think well, what is my purpose? And I think that it's going to make me a better person doing this.
So that's a wonderful segue, I think, to another question that I have, which has to do with the messaging that you think your kids are getting by you all being out on your bike and doing the sport that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Dee, talk to me a little bit about, anything that you think that message sent to your kids as you were.
I would say we used to think our kids weren't the least impressed with what you do. We used to run marathons back in the day, and then once your kids start running track or something, and they do 3 miles or something, and they'll be like, "How do you do 26.2?" And it's like, okay, give you a little bit of credit. It's like anything. You work hard, right? You get the benefits. They see that it makes you happy. You might come home with a trophy on the kitchen counter, and they're like, "What?" What?
For sure.
I think it teaches a lot of great life things. You got to work hard at what you want to be good at. You got to have fun with your friends. You got to be the best version of yourself, doing the things that you love to do. And I think our kids see that in us. And yeah.
Deanne?
Well, my kids were basically grown and out of the house when I started really getting into longer distance and more cycling, and so they saw. Well, let me back up just a little bit. I was always very upfront with them. I'm not a brave person, and there was a lot of even joining Velarosa, I was so scared to go to the first Velarosa anything because I'm like, these guys are all awesome cyclists, and I just barely know how to ride my bike, And so it's been a journey, but
She says that from the podium. Okay. All right.
My first thing I volunteered for Velarosa was a gravel race, and I'm like, they ride their bikes on gravel? What? I had no idea. So, and I'm friends with my kids. They're old enough now, that we have that relationship. And so, I tell them all these things. And so they've gotten a big kick out of this along with me. I remember that first summer that I did a couple of races, and my oldest daughter says to me, she says, "Mom, don't take this wrong, but I never thought of you as an athlete before." And I'm like, not taken wrong. I will take that as a compliment, And now, with the grandkids, I'm pretty careful to share the joys, but also the struggles with them and how hard I worked. They're like, "Oh, Grandma, you got to stand on the podium." I said, "Yeah, but this is what I had to do to get there." And they see it, and they're out there. They're little mountain bikers. I'm not a mountain biker, but they're out there, all the time tootling around and saying they want to do this too. So I'm hoping it'll jump on to the next generation, that they'll enjoy it as well.
Marisa, my question is it any different with sons and daughters? In terms of the messaging, do you think?
Yes, I do think it is a little different. And even just with each kid's personality, some kids really love to work hard and lean into things, and maybe other kids not so much. So we always say in our house, you can do hard things, if somebody complains, oh, that's too hard, I can't do that. It's like, no, you can't do it yet, but you can do it. You can do hard things. And so for my girls, I think the message I would love to give them is you can be a mom and something else and something. And there's a lot of different seasons in a woman's life. That's a really beautiful thing. And you can keep on pursuing your goals and improving yourself all throughout those different seasons. And so my daughters are like, I want to be a doctor, but I want to be a cyclist and a swimmer, and I want to, be an artist. I'm like, you can do all of those things. You really can, which is such a beautiful thing. And just to have them realize that they can be a mom too, and also fulfill and have other dreams.
That's gorgeous. I know.
Carp, I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps thinking
too,
about it. And here's why.
that.
Can I just say this? Because the first time I met Marisa, I was riding on the early morning 515 ride with her husband, and he's like, "Oh, my wife always cheers for you in races." And I'm like, "Oh, who's your wife?" And he's like, "Marisa." And then you did the Walnut Woods, and it was the first race we did together. And Austin's like, "Will you just coach her through it?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then she rides, and then we ride in Fort Dodge the next race. And then I'm like, "Dude, I'm done. I clearly can't help you anymore. You've exceeded all whatever." Like, and then Deanne, I remember, this is why it gives me goosebumps, is because like people have come so far. Like people can do great things at different points in their life. When you first called to say, "I'm considering the Okoboji 200. Do you think I can make 200?" And now I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you just do 200 on a given day." So it's cool. I got goosebumps too, Dave.
Yeah, 200 is like a day off for you.
Not quite.
Holy moly. Yeah,
Well,
You're
because
doing great, Carp.
I got one because Marisa started something, and it's probably off of a Mother's Day topic, but I'm just obsessed with this question for all cyclists because I want to know for myself. So I'm gonna go there, and I hope each of you will give me an answer. And Dave, you can weigh in too because I love this. So you talked about going up a hill and getting dropped, and you started into a cycle of negative thoughts. So I want to know from all of you incredible racers, when you're in the hurt box, you're in the pain cave, or you're in those moments where you got to motivate yourself. I'm desperate to know what it is you say to yourself. I've talked to some athletes who tell me they get real negative and they start barking at themselves. And then I've heard people, they have a mantra or they have a saying that they go to, or I don't know if you count pedal strokes backwards. I just want to know what it is that you all do, because at any given moment, I'm trying to think of the thing that I'm going to go to get me through what this moment is. So I'll start with you, Marisa, but I'd love to hear from all of you.
Yeah. I think, I usually take note if I have I'm in a negative spot and it's like, oh, I probably need to do some mental work, outside of the race, just because I think mental training is really important too. So how I came out of that was I had to think I'm more than just a cyclist. It's okay. I need to have more self-respect for myself. It's okay, and so, but something that I've done actually, and this probably seems super cheesy and corny, but when I'm going through a really hard interval or something really hard during a race or training, I think of my kids, and especially when they were younger, so sometimes just thinking of each one of them and then pedaling their name H-A-N-N-A-H, H-A-N-N-A-H, or something, and going through them and thinking I just want to go give them a hug, or I just want to do something. I don't know. It's more of maybe when people have they're having a dying experience and their life is flashing before them. They see all these really good, happy moments, because it's your brain trying to tell you, find something, some type of energy or strength left to, keep going, keep alive, but maybe it's something like that. But yeah, I've had mantras all the time. I'm a religious person, so I've thought, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or sometimes I even shorten it I can, or just he can, we can. So yeah, sometimes it's super small, even just the word yes, 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 yes.
I love that.
Yeah, so it depends on what the effort is.
They're also no yes, 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 and then I get Hannah.
You don't have to take notes. It's all recorded. I hope. Is that thing working?
This is for me. All right, Deanne, I want to know, because you're on those races for hundreds of miles. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I think I kind of learned this from Heather Poskovich, another who rides ridiculously long miles. Really take in your surroundings. Look at the stuff around you. I saw your comment about the race we did this weekend, and there were times riding out there, I was like, this is so beautiful. There's nobody here for me to say, look at that, But so I think focusing on especially when I'm getting down on what I'm doing, if I'm hurting or whatever, just there's a beautiful world out here and I get to ride my bike in it, and so that's a big thing for me. You said counting. It's amazing how often I count up hills. I don't count very well. I start over a lot, but it's just, there's something about that rhythmic, counting. And then I've always, it's kind of a mantra, I guess. I just remind myself, just settle in and go, So it's like, just kind of lock in and just pedal. You know how to do this, just settle in and go. And so that's kind of the thoughts that tend to run through my mind in those moments.
That's great. That's great. All right.
Yeah, I don't have anything crazy. Whenever I'm in the struggle bus, I'm a big surrounding person. Like if we're riding El Monzo or something and it's 42 degrees and raining, maybe not so much in that race, but in a lot of races, I'll just be like, you know what, I picked to be here. And I like being here. I mean, this is my jam. This is what I do. And so sometimes when you do that and you just look up, which I can do a lot, especially when we're on the tandem and just take in the surroundings, I'm like, this is my happy place. Now, when conditions are bad, I don't know. Usually I feel pretty fortunate, honestly, to be there. I think about racing sometimes, even riding your bike in the morning. I am a 4 a.m. riser. I'm out leaving my house by 4:45 pretty much every day, and you get out of bed, and sometimes, I will admit this, the first thing I think about when I get out of bed is like, when can I go back to bed? I will admit that, but I get up every single day because I'm like, this is my choice, and my day is going to be better because I got up, met my friends, worked out, and had a great ride. And then I always think when it comes to racing, and be like so much easier not to sign up for the race. I guess I'm thinking more like crits and road races. I always think that's half the battle, is just signing up and showing up. I mean, a lot of people are like, how do you race? That's so whatever. It's like, you just show up. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, like, I have like nothing to lose. Like, I feel blessed to still be out there at my age. And so it's like, just get up and go do it, 29. Just go out and do it. And give it your best shot. And I have like nothing to prove, and I'm still having fun. So I don't know. I feel like I'm usually pretty positive. I'm trying to think of the last time I was in the hurt box, but I usually try and count my blessings, honestly. Like, I chose to be here. I'm having fun. And, I like road more than gravel a lot of times when I'm in a road race. And, if you're getting dropped by the kids that could be your grandkids or your kids, I'm like, I did choose to be here, so let's go. That's what I do. So,
how about you, Dave?
Have you ever met me? I just talk to people.
Through the whole ride.
Oh, probably. I'm sure I know people. But no, I same thing as these guys. I try to think about the fact that, like, I paid to be here. It's by choice. So I must be having fun, right? And I enjoy the surroundings. I enjoy the fact that I remember my first Leadville. I did one solo before I brought Dee along on the tandem. And in the morning before the race, a friend of ours, Jason Allreed, got I don't know, in those days it was probably a fax or maybe a telegram from his then wife. Pony Express showed up. And she's like, look, no matter how, this is what she told him. She's like, no matter what happens today, you have all day to ride your bike. No phone calls, no emails if we had them then, no faxes, we did have those then. Nothing. Nobody's going to bug you. All you have to do is ride your bike. And so on a long, hard day, it's cold, it's wet, it's windy, it's whatever. Like, even Gents race was horribly windy this year. And I'm like, I got nothing to do but ride my bike. I got all day to do this, and nobody needs anything from me. And I'm thankful for that. So it's kind of the same thing.
That's good.
I might complain a little bit about those nasty headwinds, but
I'm just always so curious.
What's yours?
I count backwards. That's the
okay.
It depends. If it's a long hill, it's from 100,
okay.
And I count backwards. And I had read somewhere, and I should go find the scholarly journal that it was in, but they've recognized a difference from when you're doing reps if you count up versus when you count down. So let's say you're benching and you're trying to get to 12. you have more power, and and you can recognize the difference in the power if you count down than if you're counting up. You're like, oh, 12. But if you're down and you can just push up on that 1, so you've counted down. So I'm always counting down. And I'm probably more of a negative talker, like, come on. Like, I'll bark at myself in my head, like, you gotta, it's more of a yelling coach than an affirmative coach. So maybe I need to shift my head a little bit as we have this conversation. I'm learning a bit. So we've talked about this role of women in this particular sport. Do you think it's a better place to be for women than it was just as little as 5-10 years ago? Is cycling a good place for us to be?
Whew. Yeah, I mean, women rock. Absolutely, 110%. I mean, you got to show up. I mean, women have to show up. I just saw something on a Facebook feed from maybe 14 years ago, and I think it was, what was it called, West Bend or something? It was the Iowa City, outside of Iowa City, West River, or I don't know, but I counted, this picture came up, and there were like 16 girls that were doing this road race. And I was just like, I mean, back then, thinking about races and how many there were, there was like so much more when I think about road racing. Now you have so many gravel opportunities. I think we're super lucky in Des Moines to you can go close and travel not super far. But like when I think of road racing and crits, I mean, that's my jam. I don't know if I'm beating. What is your question, Carp? Are we better off? We got to show up, and absolutely we're better off. But different opportunities all the time. I feel like cycling evolves, ebbs and flows a little bit, and changes. Yeah.
Deanne, what have you found?
Like I said, I haven't been doing it as long as Dee has, but I've had a fabulous experience being part of the cycling world. It's just a whole new world for me that I didn't know existed, and I felt very welcomed. Even by the guys, they're like, I think they're excited to see women come out and race. I was expecting, because you always hear about how, the road racers are, kind of hard on each other and stuff. And that's not been my experience either, but again, mostly ultra is what I've raced on the road. So yeah, I guess, just from my personal experience, I think it's a great place to be.
Marisa, how about you on that?
Yeah, I would agree. My experience, just the last few years of what I've seen in even watching the Women in the World Tour, there's been more, taking a break, having a child and coming back and having their team support them through that and give them the time they need. And oftentimes they come back even stronger, which is super cool to see. I think there's more acceptance and as even the sports science of it advances, you can see that women can still be very strong endurance-wise and be peaking into their late 30s. And so, yeah, there is a balancing act of supporting women through pregnancy and different things like that. So in that way, I think it's definitely been more supportive. But yeah, with, sponsors and money, I think there is an ebb and flow of it. I think with social media, it's a good thing overall to help more women see more women cycle.
Yes. I agree with that.
And it can inspire other women. I have been super inspired by all the strong women that there are. It's other maybe barriers I thought I probably can't do that, or it's no, look at this woman, she's doing it. And so, you gotta channel your inner, Demi or Lottie Kopecky and get up this hill. Come on, girl. So I think it is a more positive place for women. And yeah, I also think that it comes a lot from men too, companies and organizations, there's men and women, and Deanne's experience, when men are accepting and help women in the cycling industry, or just, if a woman comes to a race and a male counterpart is friendly and helps them, it takes a total team effort. But I feel like there are a lot more positive experiences and opportunities for women.
I think there's a lot more. Yeah, are you asking me or asking if I have a question?
If you've got a question, go for it, because I know I've taken the last couple.
Oh, Carp, listen, you take this over for sure. Nobody, people hear me every week. They don't want to hear me anymore.
Can I put a plug in for the Des Moines just community in general?
Yes, you can.
I feel like I feel like it's a great time to talk about like the cycling community in general when you talk about support, guys supporting women, just in general. I feel like sometimes we don't know how lucky we are. Let's say unless you left Des Moines and you come back, or we have friends, Dave, that have left and they talk about like, you guys don't even know what you have, and just the support, and not just in cycling, but just like in each other's lives. Like I can speak to being injured, fractured pelvis and having kid at home and not moving, and just everybody stepping up at times like when you're hurt or go through rough times. Marissa, I'm sorry to say, I know you can relate to that too, but
you were the first one who came to visit me.
In general, I just think the cycling community, we are so stinking lucky to have everything that we have here.
For sure, and even like on group rides, like I remember one of my first REI rides, Jason Simpson comes up to me like, hey, move, do you know where the wind is coming from? I'm like, no. He's like, yeah. What direction is the wind coming from? He's like, look at the flag. We have so many super helpful, experienced men who will just step in and help us out. It's awesome because we all need that.
For sure.
What do you look for from other moms? Like, how do other moms inspire you?
Well, coming from being an empty nester, like I see people with young children, like balancing it, and I'm like, ooh, dude, nice job. And you will sometimes remind us, like, you did that too. And maybe when you're in the moment, you don't realize like what a great job you're doing. Because now that we're all older and looking at other people doing it, I'm like, wow, like that's impressive. But that is inspiring. Like juggling things, the balancing act. It is inspiring to watch people, try and master all the aspects of their life, for sure.
Deanne, how about you?
Yeah, I have a very similar comment. My daughter's the same age as Marissa and has 4 kids too, and I just watch you guys and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, and I'm just so impressed with the way you balance everything and still, do it well. So.
Right at the front, like Marissa, you're at the front.
And still crush everybody's souls when you're out there.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. Yes.
You're good about posting pictures too. Like you just had your oldest out, like, and he looked pro, like cycling next to you. I think I sent you a message like,
he's wearing my old
like,
kit.
Yes, I love it.
He's almost as tall as me now. So yeah, it's fun. I want to make sure I'm, they have all the opportunities of whatever activities they want to do, and Austin does a ton. He's stepped back a lot to let me do more. So yeah, it takes a team effort, but yeah, I'm super inspired by other women in sport as well. Like you see it all the time. Like I love to follow like andmother.org, or it's like an Instagram page, and just to see what other women do to like help manage things at home too. Like for example, like getting Walmart pickup, like just ordering it online and picking it up, or having something delivered. Like that alone saves an hour of my time, and it's super helpful. Like,
how can I be more efficient?
Yeah, how can I be more efficient?
Use that hour for something else.
With like meals and doing easier meals and just making things easier. Like even sometimes like using paper plates. We're using paper plates today because I've, just trying to simplify and, but also keep meaning and importance like on the things you really want to emphasize. So like it almost forces you to be more intentional. Like you can't do you can't do everything. So you have to like let some things fall away.
I'm curious, and Deanne, this was something that you had mentioned earlier, where you said you hadn't really thought of yourself as an athlete, or someone had made that comment to you.
Yeah, my daughter.
Talk to me a little bit about how you sort of evolved into cycling, and was it there weren't the opportunities for some of the areas of interest that you may have had earlier in your in your development as an athlete? Or?
Well, actually, I don't know that I even had the interest when I was younger. I was doing other things. I mostly just worked out so that I could, eat dessert.
Right now.
Yes.
It really, I wasn't someone that participated in sports as a kid. I just wasn't. I mean, I was active, but I'd go for long walks. I wasn't someone that did that. And then, really, when joining Villa Rosa. Well, actually, slightly before that, I had met someone that is about 12 years older than I am. I call her my bike mom. And she took me out riding, and that's how I actually did my first RAGBRAI. So that was my first kind of introduction into longer riding. And then, when she moved, I joined Villa Rosa and found out about, I didn't know people race their bikes. I didn't know anything about this in this community. And so they kind of encouraged me to just try it. I remember when I joined, I said, I'll join, but I will never race my bike. I'm not going to do it.
Last words.
And then somebody got me to do Elkhart. I was like, okay, I could ride my bike out and back 7 miles. I could probably do that. And then I decided I was going to try 24 Hours of Coming, and I surprised the daylights out of myself. I finished in second place on the 100K, and that was like my first race. And I'm like, who is this? I didn't know I could do that. And so that's what led me to decide I wanted to try and do Break the Cycle. I'd watched Dee do it for years, and I'm like, oh, that would be so cool if I could do Break the Cycle. So it's kind of been just an evolution, and it took a good year before I had enough confidence in myself to say, oh, I'm actually an athlete. I was working with a coach, and I almost stopped because I thought, what am I doing? He's a really good coach. I'm nobody, And it's just. It's a growing experience. It's a learning experience. It's a learning to have confidence in yourself experience. Yeah.
I'm just curious because I think as women, oftentimes there can be those moments of doubt and,
for sure.
and maybe where you weren't introduced to the sport as early as maybe some of our male counterparts would have been, and how that sort of changes. Because I'd say I didn't come into cycling until I was well into my 30s. So, I mean, I'd ridden a bike, right?
Oh, yeah.
We had all done...
Sure.
And had different athletic experiences, but had not had this one in particular. So I'm always curious about that introduction to the bike. Like, what was the moment that you came to the bike as your sport?
And for me, as somebody that so I've started racing at 52. So we'll just throw that out there. And seeing other women older than me that were still out there doing this, and like, oh, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. And so I think it's just really important for us more seasoned riders or just older women to be out there and doing these things, and so that others can see that this is a lifelong activity. This isn't just something you can do when you're in your 20s and 30s.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Seeing someone else do it immediately breaks down all these internal barriers to what you think you can and can't do. And I think that's been very inspiring. Marisa, you mentioned something about that too earlier, and Dee, I know you feel the same way.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Clear Lake. They used to have a crit, and I remember Jeff Mertz when he would be in the little announcer stand, or one time. My goal was always just to finish that race with the group, laps around the lake, the park, or whatever. And I can remember you said to one of your friends, oh, Dee's going to be, like, I just finished in the pack. Like, I stayed with them. I had raced like the threes race, and then I did the 1, 2, 3, super intimidating race because all the heavy hitters come out from all the states or whatever. And I can remember when I was done, Jeff Mertz is like, don't ever stop doing that. That's super inspiring. I'm sure because of your age. I mean, this was like years ago when I was younger, but I was like, oh, you're inspired by that, huh? But I was like so happy, and you were standing next to someone, Dave, and they're like, oh, is she going to be bummed? She maybe got, I don't know, 10th out of 20th, and Dave's like, no, dude, she's going to be so stoked she stayed in that. And I was. And so, yeah, little victories along the way kind of keep you going. And sometimes you don't even know you're inspiring to someone else, and someone will say something like that, and you're like, oh, dude, I wasn't even thinking that on the outside, ever. And it's nice to hear that sometimes, because it makes you think in a different way. Yeah,
and I think that comes from just doing what you love doing with joy.
Yeah.
And people see it. You're not angry to be there. You're not forced to be there. You're there because you
actually pay money to be there. You pay money to get dirty and sweaty and
ruin your bottom bracket, your bearings, and your
pay money to fix your bike again.
Right, absolutely. But people see that, and they see the joy that it brings you, and they're like, I kind of want that. I want a piece of that. How do I get that? And then they start with the 7-mile Elkhart time trial or triathlon or Clear Lake Criterium or whatever, and then and it grows from there. What was your what's your origin story, Carp?
You know what? I showed up at, someone had recommended to me that I show up at a women's biking event down at Waterworks Park, and I showed up. And
That's the first time I met you, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's her.
Nelly.
Nelly, you guys, she's on channel.
Yeah.
Lisa, we did used to watch Channel 5 News. So.
Well, so I brought my bike in, didn't have a bike rack, so it's all in pieces in the back of the car, and you drive into the lot, and I was like, I'm going to drive right out. This is very similar again to what you said. I have no business being here. And I believe it was Carolyn Zeller who kind of got in front of my car. She's like, hey, you look like you got a bike in there. Are you here for this? And I thought, I don't know, maybe. And
good for her.
Yes,
that's awesome.
And so, put the bike together and just did a couple of laps and tried not to take anybody out. And it was wonderful. And from there, then you are willing to go on a longer ride than just the laps around Waterworks. So again, it's interesting how everyone comes to the bike at whatever point and whatever time and what it means to them to do it.
Yeah. We are at 45 minutes here, and I think it'd be kind of cool to go around the room and ask each person, what would you give advice to a new mom? What kind of advice would you give to a new mom? Is that a good question, Carp?
That's a solid question.
Is it?
It's a solid question.
Good.
It's a totally
Should I ask
solid
it 3
question.
times? This is the person who told me, ask the same question 3 times in a different way to get the answer.
No, that's a very solid question.
So Marisa, how about you? What would you like to share to other moms who
a new mom or other moms?
Yeah, other moms.
Other moms in general. Just be patient with whatever season you're in. Like, I didn't really start training regularly until my last child, my 4th child, was like over 1. So her birthday was October, and I decided like December, I'm like, for this new year, I'm going to sign up for some races and start training regularly, And so don't be, you have the time, but like your kids only grow up once, and bike races will always be there. So just be patient with yourself, with your body. Another thing that I've thought about a lot is like a woman's body is like the moon. Like, it's always changing shape in different, times and phases. And like, just learn to love yourself the way you are at, and know that you can change through like little consistent efforts through time, and just being patient and building those habits. If you have a goal, you can get there, but just give yourself the time and the grace to get there. But also enjoy motherhood as much as possible. I've always and I think I've posted about this too, like, when my kids were young, it was, crazy. And like, I think a lot of times as a mother, you feel just like, you're going on an outing and there's a lot of stress. And I remembered so much, like, I just want to enjoy this more. So just try to enjoy it. And I have to remind myself a lot, like, this is, they're only 8 years old one time or this year. And like, just enjoy it, just relax, enjoy it. Let them be a kid. Let me be an imperfect mom, a trying mom, and just, but also have goals and keep progressing yourself in whatever way you are inspired to grow.
I love it.
Yeah, that was great. Can we just say times
I was going to say ditto. I don't want to follow that.
That answer.
I guess the only thing I would add, I took things a little too seriously. I'll own that as a young mom. And I think just seeing the humor in every day and just trying to find the joy and even the ridiculous moments that happen when your kids are going crazy and your house is a mess and, you hope nobody shows up at the front door. But even that, there's joy and humor in those moments. And so just to take a deep breath and slow down and try and find that, just makes all the difference in the world in how the rest of your day goes.
Yeah, I think I would say be present. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, and I remember working the first couple and just being like, oh, I just want to see what my kids are having for lunch and whatever. And the times that I was home, oh my gosh, sometimes I'd just be like, 5 o'clock, get here, right? But looking back now, being empty nester, like just be present in that time. Like those were such great years when they were young. But also make time for yourself, figure out what you need to, motivate you, make you the best mom that you can be. I mean, for me, starting out, we were both runners and tag teaming. We tag team our runs, and whether it's like doing hot laps at the Y or going outside in the whatever. And I feel like when you do that, whatever it is that feeds you, if it's reading a book, if it's walking the dog, whatever, makes you more present for your kids.
So I had the best maternity nurse with my first daughter. She was the most no-nonsense, fantastic, realist. I feel like I had a sage, and I got blessed with her as the maternity nurse. And I'll tell you that when I held my daughter Reese for the first time, she was probably one of the first infants I'd ever held. And when you talk about, that's probably not good training for you to hand your daughter and be like, well, this is how you hold a baby, and you're a little bit completely out of your element. But she said, you will figure out that there are ages of your child that you will relate more to them, and then you will struggle more with. So I would say I loved the baby years, like that first year. Man, give me a screaming baby with colic, I can handle that all day long. The minute you hand me a toddler with free will, I'm out. Like they're running into doors, and you got to put up baby gates, and it's like trying to herd this person who doesn't want to listen to you. I was not the best toddler mom. And then we roll into and I've enjoyed being a mom to teenagers very, very much. So I think it's okay to know that you're in a season, as Marisa said, and your better season might be just around the corner. Sometimes you just got to hang on to this one. And I thought that was really, really wise, and I've thought of her a lot. I've been in a season.
And she'll never listen to this podcast, correct?
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely.
I loved you all your years.
Yes, that's what we're supposed to say, but in truth, like, man,
You're bugging me.
You're bugging me. Stop trying to put something in that light socket. Stop doing that. It's making me stressed. Yeah.
Kind of like being in a race. Like every race, there's good points and bad points in every race. It's like, I'll never get up this hill. And then you get up the hill and you turn a corner. It's like, tailwind and 18 miles of just tailwind.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. You just got to hang on long enough.
Yeah.
Like a lot of you just got to hang on long enough in the next.
There will be a corner.
Just keep spinning.
Yeah, I think that's
There will be a
right.
corner.
That's right.
There will be a corner, and you look back, and there's another freaking tandem on your wheel. 11 miles to go.
Wait, we started with them beating us at Gravel Worlds. Are we ending it that way too?
We call it a nice bookend.
Nice bookend, yeah.
Bookend to that.
Marisa, Deanne, Dee, thanks tons for
Thank
agreeing
you
to come
so
and
much.
share.
It was
Lisa,
awesome.
what a treat to have you bring your journalistic talent.
My pleasure. My
And
gosh.
your perspective as a mom and a cyclist as well. I think that was a great, and holy moly, honestly, like Dee said, goosebumps. I probably got goosebumps 10 times tonight. So thanks so much for sharing and being awesome moms and awesome cyclists.
Just awesome people.
Awesome people, yep.
3 cheers for us. Woo!
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Thank you.
Geez, that was such a great conversation. I can't thank Dee, Deanne, Marisa enough for agreeing to take a night out of their busy schedules and share their great stories. And Lisa, what a pro. She did such a great job leading this conversation. All 4 of them are rock stars for sure, and it was an honor to be in the same room and in the midst of their conversation with them. Speaking of room, thanks tons to Vela Rosa for offering the space for us to meet. Vela Rosa is a great women's clothing brand, and you can see all their latest designs at velarosacycling.com. And as far as this podcast goes, I really appreciate you as you tune in each week. And I'd really love it if you would rate and review this show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to support the show financially, just look for Bike Talk with Dave at buymeacoffee.com. and drop a few coins in the cup. When you do, I would love to get you a sticker. And be sure and check out the Bike Talk with Dave channel on YouTube. Or you can always go to biketalk.bike and stream every episode right on your computer. And don't forget that code, Bike Talk with Dave, when registering for Gravel Worlds. Just go to gravel-worlds.com, sign up, put in Bike Talk with Dave, no spaces, and you get 10% off. Another race you might want to do is the Core 4. It's just a couple of weeks before the Gravel Worlds, and this year they are boasting a $10,000 prize purse. Check it out. Who's ready for some Core 4 news? After a huge spike in riders and a super thank you to everyone for coming out this year, these guys jumped right back into the fire. It's no surface untouched again for 2024 because Core 424 has a sweet sound to it, no doubt. New routes, new distances, and a new you. That's right, y'all, they are mixing it up with more surprises and delights. New for 24 is the Core 40 distance. Just a bump up from the 20 mile and still has all the farmscapes and B roads and champagne gravel you'd expect from the folks at Core 4, just without the single track. They're telling us 60 is the new 50, miles that is. It's a no-surfaced, untouched, podium-eligible route with all the cats in addition to their marquee 100-mile event. It's the perfect blend of competition and community. We want Core 4 to be on your event calendar for 2024. Jump on Bike Reg today, snag your spot before this event reaches its cap. Come ride the wave and get more bodies on bikes. It's blazing hot action every year, and they'll keep the fire stoked all winter long with the 20, 40, 60, or 100-mile route. Core 424 has something for everyone. It's time for the next time. Let's go! Thanks again for tuning in to our Mother's Day Spectacular, and another great thanks to Marisa, Deanne, Lisa, and Dee for sharing and reminding us that basically every day is a day that we can celebrate motherhood. Now have a great week, and remember that nothing compares with the simple pleasure of riding a bicycle.